To another edition of the Art Lewis Show. Later on after the 10 o'clock news this morning, State Representative Amos O'Neill comes a-calling. We've got some open phone time at 11 o'clock this morning. We'll just spend a little bit of time anyway talking about Iran. But for this hour, we start a series where we're going to meet the candidates. Finally, we have candidates for the 35th Senatorial District in the state of Michigan, where many of you have been unrepresented for over a year now. And the first of our candidates joins us this morning on the Republican ticket. He is Jason Tunney. Jason, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. To the legend, Art Lewis. Good morning.
Where is he? Thank you for joining us, Jason. Attorney by training. You were an assistant prosecutor here in Saginaw for a while, weren't you?
Long time ago.
Long time
ago, right out of law school, 1997. Hired in. Mike Thomas hired me. It's where I met my wife.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Is that where she worked up there? Or?
She was an assistant prosecutor as well. Somebody asked me that one time.
Oh, wait.
Like, did you prosecute?
Two legal beagles in one family?
I never win an argument.
I was going to say.
I've never won one. My sons have learned, don't try and get anything past your mother because it won't happen.
So then you went into private practice, and I noticed that your undergrad degree was in political science. You're one of the few people I know that got a political science degree that's actually going to try and use it.
That was never the plan. When I was at Michigan, I started at the University of Michigan in 1990. And we all remember what was going on in 1990. It was the fall of the Berlin Wall. Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall. Big change in Eastern Europe. My plan was, I took Russian first term freshman year at the University of Michigan. My plan was, I'm going to go into the CIA. I'm going to learn to speak Russian.
Well, that's reasonable.
I'm going to go into the CIA. Yeah, that first term freshman year Russian class had a lot to do with that.
Destroyed that image. Huh?
Yeah, that changed plans real quick.
So you didn't stay with the Russian, obviously.
I flipped back to Spanish after I met with my Russian professor, and she was like, no, you need to stay. You need to stick with it. And I'm charting out my grade path to her. This is untenable, professor. So I went back to Spanish.
Yeah. So what made you decide to run for the 35th district? I mean, you had a long time to think about it because nothing was happening. What made you do it?
I think it was April of 25. I have a very vivid memory of this. I don't remember the exact time, but I'm sitting at home with my wife. I think it's a Saturday. We're folding some laundry, which she reminds me when I tell this story means that she was folding laundry and I was not pulling my weight. But I had that moment, Art, that eureka moment where I was like, wait a second, that's not right. I'm paying taxes. I'm going to pay 2025 taxes to the state of Michigan, and I don't have a state senator. This is un-American. This is not right. This is fundamentally wrong. We fought a revolution for this. Yeah. This is what I'm starting to say to my wife. And she's like, so what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, well, this is April. At that time, I'm like, we're going to escrow our state of Michigan taxes. For every day we don't have a state senator, I'm going to come up with a formula. I'm going to hold that amount of money back, and I'm not going to pay it to the state for my 2025 taxes. She's like, you're going to do what? So I explained it to her again. I even called my accountant. He's like, oh, buddy, you're going to need a tax lawyer for this. Yeah. Nobody's ever tried anything like this.
Taxation
finally, Pamela.
Yeah.
Finally, Pamela, my wife, says to me, she's like, listen, buddy, you're going to jail. I'm not going to jail for unpaid taxes. You're going to jail. And I sit back and I think about it, and I think, okay, well, I'll run for it. And then I thought about it, deliberated quite a bit, and then right before the filing deadline, the end of September of 25, I filed. I guess I put my money where my big fat mouth is.
Yeah, it took long enough for the special election to get announced. I mean, that was a travesty as far as I was concerned. Taxation without representation, you nailed that. And we just deserved better, but it was all political.
It was.
I'm convinced the governor was afraid she was going to lose the seat and thus lose the Senate.
And she would have never actually lost it, Art. It would have only have been a tie.
I understand that.
But she wanted her advantage as she went through the budget process. So I agree with what you just said. She was worried about losing that seat. And then it was the added benefit of, well, we'll just hold on to this through the budget process. So we, the good people of most of Midland Bay and Saginaw, 270,000 people, were not represented in the budget process in the state Senate last year. Yeah. That's fundamentally wrong. That's why I'm
fundamentally wrong, but it didn't bother me because I live in the 26th. So sorry about that. I'm in Thomas Township. We're outside the 35th.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you decide to run for the office. Have you ever run for political office before?
Never.
Any inkling to do
I didn't
it?
even run for 7th grade class vice president. I've never run for office for anything ever before in my life. Somebody said to me, I think it was this weekend while I was out knocking doors, they asked me the same question, and they're like, this is a pretty good way to get a politician. You get a citizen who's fired up and wants to make a difference.
Yeah, and the thing that I see in all of folks like yourself who come out because of a particular issue that you see, I've been worried that the unbelievable separation in politics today and just the disgusting way it's played is driving good people from running. And that worries me.
I have a lot of people, Art, I spend a lot of time on doors. I have knocked on thousands of doors already in the communities up in Bay and Midland and here in Saginaw. And this is what I hear. People tell me, thank you. Even people that are not politically aligned with me and people who are going to vote against me. I mean, I had a woman this weekend tell me point blank, I'm not voting for you, but thank you for doing this. I'm praying for you. And that type of talk encourages me to keep going and to work harder, work a little bit harder, work a little bit longer.
Wish we'd hear more of that. We don't hear very much of that.
No, we don't. Not enough.
We hear too much of, well, you don't believe me, so you're a bad guy. That's just nonsense. And it's the political rhetoric of today, I do not ever remember it being like it is. But it's not just the rhetoric, it's the way we hear about it. Let me put forth a notion. I've said this many times. In Jefferson's day, if you were going to accuse candidate Jefferson of sleeping around, let's say, you'd tell a reporter who might make a note, they'd take it and they'd put it on the old printing press if they had one. That would go on a horse and get delivered to your town. And maybe you'd hear about it the one time when the town crier stood out there or you read the paper. And that would be it. You're done. If Jefferson were alive today and running for office and you accused him of adultery, you'd hear it 100 times a day, weeks on end. You'd be hit over the head with it. That's the main difference today. We're inundated with this crap. And it's too bad that we've come down to that. But it's a modern era. What can I say? I'm an old goat. I mean, I just remember the way it used to be, Used to be in the journalism world, you pick up a newspaper, and even though they were biased, because you could read it by the banner, it was the so-and-so Republican, the so-and-so Democrat, but you knew if you wanted their opinion, you'd go to the editorial page. If you read the news, you got the news.
Right.
It's changed.
Yeah, now it seems like it's a race to be first, not to be right.
That's a good way of putting it. We're going to take a break, come back, talk with Jason Tunney about some issues. He is candidate for the 35th Senate District in the state of Michigan. He'll be on the Republican ticket. Take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland right next to McDonald Ford. It's part of the McDonald Ford property. It's where you get all your routine service from oil changes and brakes and batteries and tires, particularly tires because they sell all their tires at just $5 over cost. And there's a difference in tires. There's a difference between your all-season radials and your winter tires. I didn't know what it was until I asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to tell us about it.
Hello, Art. Yes, winter tires are made with a pliable rubber compound that includes silica to stay flexible and maintain grip in freezing temperatures. Unlike harder all-season tires, which stiffen and lose traction in the cold, this flexible compound allows the tire to better conform to the road surface, providing superior grip and traction on snow and ice to keep you safe.
Thanks, John. That's what it's all about, too, keeping you safe, which is why your car needs to be in tip-top condition. And you can be sure that it is if you take it to Quick Lane Freeland for all your service needs. McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland, two names, stand ready to help you with all your automotive needs in 2026.
So my friends over at Pure
And we're back with you. In studio with me is Jason Tunney, Republican candidate for the 35th Senate District in the state of Michigan. Talk about a number of issues, and I want to start out with the one that probably gets under my craw more than anything, and that's education. We pay more in this state than most states to educate our students, and we rank 44th now in the nation. We're not exactly getting our money's worth. You got an answer?
I do, actually. This is an issue that is increasingly gaining bipartisan support. I would start by saying I agree with you 100%, Art. If people give me one issue to talk about on their doorstep, it's this: education. We have to fix it. It's going to require long-term thinking, committed effort for the future of our state, for jobs, for the future of democracy. You cannot have democracy with an uneducated population. You need an educated population for democracy to thrive. I am a proponent of going back to a real third grade reading test like they have instituted in Mississippi. We look at states like Alabama and Louisiana and Mississippi and Indiana. They're cleaning our clock. I am a big proponent. Indiana is putting a huge emphasis on addressing chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism in this state exceeds 28%. That is unacceptable. These kids' jobs, and parents need to understand, your job is to have these children in school, not leaving to get your hair done, not leaving to get your nails done, not leaving to go to baseball practice or extra hitting practice. It's your job to be there during the day getting educated. Indiana's chronic absenteeism, just by putting focus on it and the importance of it, has driven it down to a little bit over 16% in absenteeism. And it's no coincidence, Art, that Indiana's fourth grade reading score is 6th, and we're 44th, like you said. So we've got to attack this third grade reading issue. We've got to get serious about it. We've got to teach the teachers how to teach, and there is movement on that in this state. We need to make it mandatory. We have to take things like Lucy Calkins, the failed Lucy Calkins experiment, and get back to the science of reading. We need to mandate it. We need to make sure our teachers know how to teach it. We don't have enough focus in this state on teaching our teachers how to teach the kids how to read. We have to teach the teachers. We have to focus on those things. So those are some of the big ideas. I don't profess to have all of the answers, but I'm committed to getting very, very serious about this. The legislature needs to get serious about this, both houses. The governor needs to get serious about this. She addressed it in her State of the State address this week. So I think everybody understands it really is a bipartisan issue. We have to address this issue for the future of this state.
The question is, will they?
Well, I think so. I think we have to. But I was disappointed to see Governor Whitmer move $1.2 billion out of the K through 12 school aid budget and move it up to the universities. I think we need to focus on this very important issue of pre-K through 2, K through 3 education reading. I think that's the biggest takeaway from Mississippi is focusing on that, committing to that, having a real test with real teeth in it.
Yeah, they had the biggest turnaround.
Yes.
Unbelievable turnaround in education.
People don't believe me, Art, when I tell them that Mississippi went from 48th to 9th.
Yeah.
They don't believe me.
Truism, but it's just, it's been talked about, paid for, but money is not always the answer.
I agree.
But yeah, we keep spending it and more of it.
It's not about the dollars we spend. It's about how we spend our money and how we target it and what we do with it. It's just like what I learned at in business. You said that I was in private practice. I really wasn't in private practice. I went and worked for Duralast, a name
Oh, did you really?
known well here in the area. I worked at Duralast for 20 years. That was our family business. That was John Burt is my maternal grandfather. And so what I learned at Duralast, we have to make choices on how we spend our money because we don't have the benefit of just raising prices to cover our inefficiencies. We have to make decisions because our competitors are very, very sharp and they will lower their prices any chance they get. So we've got to tighten our belts. We've got to be smart. We've got to be efficient. And oh, by the way, every decision we make affects our people. It doesn't just affect the industry. It affects our people here, our employees, our sales reps, our customers, our contractors. And I learned a tremendous amount from being in a family business, being the general counsel for our family business, being on the board of directors, learned a tremendous amount. And I think we need less career politicians and more citizens from the community, more people who've been in businesses because I come from a world where the phrase too big to fail never applied to our family business, never applied to Duralast. So if we were going to survive, it was never going to be on a government handout or a government subsidy or MEDC picking a winner or a loser. We didn't qualify for that stuff.
Qualified because you sold a quality product at a reasonable price.
Absolutely. But we didn't have the weight and the gravitas of an Amazon coming into the area saying, we need tax breaks because we're going to be able to do this, that, and the other thing and deliver jobs.
So in order to stop the outflow of the talent we train that move off elsewhere, we need industry. How do we attract industry to the state? Do we put money on the table, or are there other ways?
We have a terrible record in the state of Michigan with the government picking winners and losers in business. I was reading an article about it this morning. If you wanted to make money, bet against any time the government from this state, the MEDC, is picking and targeting winners and losers and giving them subsidies and tax breaks. All of the EV centers and the one in Marshall didn't pan out. They don't pan out. I am a big proponent of making Michigan a business-friendly state. We need to be business-friendly for all of the entrepreneurs in this state, for all of the future John Burts in this state, for all of the small businessmen and small businesswomen who want to make it go and want to do it in this state. I want to make it fair for them. We are not going to tax our way out of this problem. I am a big proponent of that. We don't tax our way out of problems. We need to be more efficient. We need to be more tax friendly. We need to be more regulatory friendly.
And do you see any of that happening?
On the regulatory front, yes. You've got Bill G. Schuette, House Representative out of Midland, his Reduction of Red Tape Act. I'm a big fan of that. I've talked to Bill about that a couple of times. Last year in the legislature, they passed less legislation than almost any other year in the history of the Michigan legislature. I don't think you gauge a legislature on how successful they are by how many statutes they pass, because coming from a world of private business, it's very hard and very difficult to comply with all of the various statutes and regulations and agency requirements to do business in this state. You have to go out and find I'm an attorney by trade, and I had to turn to big law firm attorneys or Braun Kendrick here in Saginaw to navigate our way through some of this. You almost need experts to guide you through the field. That's not right. That's too many rules, too much regulation, too many agency requirements, too burdensome.
Take a break, come back. We're talking to Jason Tunney. He is the Republican candidate for the 35th Senate District in the state of Michigan. We'll be back.
The next generation of
Don't miss the Home Builders Association of the Great Lakes Bay Region Home Shows. Join us in Frankenmuth, March 7th and 8th at the...
Back with you in studio with me is Jason Tunney, Republican candidate for the 35th Senate District in the state of Michigan. There is a candidate for governor who's run before, who's touting getting rid of the income tax in the state. And he wants to chop 2 cents out of every discretionary budget. I don't know what the reality is of doing that, but what's your view of taxes in this state, where they should be, and how do we get there?
We don't tax our way out of a problem. I look at the city of Saginaw. I just don't think we tax our way out of problems. Taxes are too high in this state. State of Michigan income tax, we got it down to 4%. We let it go back up to 4.25%. You talked about the migration out of this state population-wise. We finally stemmed it and got it to a break-even point. Maybe we bottomed out. Maybe we didn't. But when I look at income taxes, I look at border states. Indiana's state income tax is 2.95%. Ohio's is 2.75%. Our corporate income tax in this state is almost 6%. Indiana's is down by 4%. I think we can make correlations here. We're losing to Indiana. Indiana's beating us in education. Indiana has lower taxes than us. Indiana is a domestic migration growth state. Indiana is beating us for jobs. Talking to Jim Miller from Next Year the other night, they're working on gaining work. I don't think I can say who it's from, but they're worried about losing it to a manufacturer in Indiana. I'm not saying we need to go overnight and be Florida and be a no state income tax state, or Texas or Tennessee. Those are very, very different states from us. But Indiana is not that different from us. Ohio is not that different from us. They have lower taxes. They're doing better than we are. Ohio, Art, is a net migration income state, and we're not. We can do better. We need to expect more. We should do better. We need to expect more of our political class, our politicians, our legislature, our governor. We need to be working together to solve these problems.
Yet I've said too that the Great Lakes Bay region could be a leader in getting us out of the morass, because we have Corning, Hemlock Semiconductor, SK Siltron, and others. They're all looking for employees. They're all doing all the things that need to be done to be successful. We've been lucky to gain them.
Absolutely, we have. I was looking at an article not too long ago. We talk about AI, and there's a lot of threats about AI. We're all concerned about AI and where it goes in the future going forward. But one of the good uses for AI, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, has started this Institute for Innovative Manufacturing. And what they want to do is apply the best of AI and apply it to these traditional manufacturing jobs and manufacturing locations. Imagine if we do something like that in the state of Michigan. We do it right here, like you said, through Dow, through SK Siltron, the medical areas in Saginaw and in this area and in this state, and we apply it through SVSU and Northwood. Maybe we get some help from Wayne State or the University of Michigan. This is still a manufacturing area of the world. And for every manufacturing job you bring in, it throws off 3 to 5 ancillary jobs. Studies have shown that. We need to get smarter and better at manufacturing. I think that if the state wants to get involved, let's get these colleges and universities involved in embracing artificial intelligence. And how do we apply that to be smarter manufacturers?
Last break, and we'll be back with Jason Tunney.
Gotta go.
Pioneer Sugar for you and your family. Proud to be found in your kitchen, the heart of your home. And it
Jason Tunney, he is the 35th District Republican candidate for the 35th Senate District in the state of Michigan, finally, after a long, long time. I want to talk just for a minute about some of the issues we hear about in the news, and I know you've written about it, talked about it. Where do you think the Line 5 controversy is going to end up? It's going to go back to federal? Shouldn't it be a federal issue? It's international trade.
I agree. I think this whole thing got politicized. I think Governor Whitmer and Attorney General Nessel ran on this 8 years ago. It just strikes me, Art, as being Governor Snyder delivered a common sense solution. None of us in the Great Lakes, sons and daughters of Michigan, who are extremely protective of our Great Lakes, nobody thinks that having a 60-year-old pipeline at the bottom of the straits is a good idea.
Unprotected.
Get hit by an anchor.
Which
Who knows what can happen? And Snyder works out a deal that says we're going to build a tunnel for the pipeline and Enbridge is going to pay for it.
Yeah. And here we are 7 or more years later, and they haven't turned a spade yet.
Right. Because it's been tied up in litigation the whole time. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money and taxpayer resources in the Attorney General's office. I think the whole thing is frivolous.
What other issues do you see as major issues? If you get to Lansing, other than the ones we've talked about, what's on the Tunney plate to take priority?
We need to make public safety again. I talk about let cops be cops. In this state, there was an article not too long ago in the Detroit News. Resisting and obstructing cases are up in this state. Fleeing and eluding cases are up in this state. Violent interactions are up in this state between police officers and citizens. And the second it turns violent, that citizen is more likely than not going to be a defendant. We have less police officers now than we did back when I started in the prosecutor's office in the late 90s, early 2000s. And these cases are up. That almost defies explanation. I was talking to all of the local sheriffs. I've talked to Scott Holzinger in Midland, Sheriff Cunningham in Bay, Bill Fetterspill here in Saginaw. And to a man, they have all said, Jason, we've got less cadets coming through the police academies. And we're not disparaging the guys coming through now. We love them. But when we came out, I think Sheriff Holzinger came out in 2003, he said, we had like 50 cadets coming out in that class.
State police have the same problem.
And we had 13 in the last class at the Delta College Police Academy. And what message are we sending to young men and women to want to go into law enforcement these days?
Yeah.
We need to support law enforcement.
The one good piece of news that came out of all of this problem finding cadets is prior to all of this, Saginaw was just about the only department that actually paid to have cadets go through the academy. Now, everybody's paying to have cadets through the academy.
Yep.
So you can sign up to be a cadet, fellow future police officer, and somebody's going to pay your freight. All they ask is you come to work and give them time afterwards. The old days it was cherry picked. Saginaw put them all through the academy, and all the other departments were picking them off one by one.
Right. But how's that any different than what the military does with the ROTC program?
Well, in some ways.
We'll pay for your
Right.
college, then
Yeah.
you owe us 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal for a lot of people.
Yep. Yep. So I'm a huge proponent of law enforcement. Came from a law enforcement family. My father was a federal agent and never wanted to follow in his footsteps. He was a criminal tax lawyer and a CPA. Man was brilliant.